everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Aftershow. I'm Nikki Novak, your host. Today, let's go. We're going to be talking about the Super Mario Brothers movie. Wahoo! And I have Wendy Lee Szany here today. She is our expert, and we are going to be deep diving into the movie and breaking down all of those Easter eggs, all of the things in the movie, all the things, and answering some of the questions that the film left behind, which is, where is it going to go from here? Because we know it's going to go somewhere from here because the box office was crazy. Like, it was such a powered up box office. So first of all, before we go any further, we have to warn you, this is a spoiler-filled episode. So if you've not seen the Super Mario Brothers movie, go play your games, go watch the movie.
With a lot of galaxies. They're all counting on us. No pressure.
Wendy, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for
Hi.
having me. You know, it's funny. We got to see this movie together.
We did, yeah.
So it's kind of serendipitous.
It's very serendipitous.
We got to be here. We get to be here and talk about this movie. I had so much fun with this one. And you know what's funny is when they announced it, I was like, initial reaction was, yes, so excited. And then went, oh no, because then the next thing my mind went to is the quote unquote video game movie curse, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, can they handle Mario well? Because Mario is so iconic and really, really important to a lot of people. It's got a lot of fans, not just like statewide, but internationally.
Yeah.
So I was like, can they do it well? And I remember watching the first trailer and it was so vibrant, getting to look at the Mushroom Kingdom. I
Right.
went, ooh, okay, I have a good feeling about this one.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny because, well, first let's go into, and then we can sort of talk about sort of, you know, this craziness between, and people have been tweeting about it. The tomato meter score for this movie, 56% currently. The audience score, 96%. So, you know, it's so crazy because you and I did see this movie together, and I text you afterwards, and we were both like, that was great.
Yeah.
And when I was watching it, and I actually think the video game curse is over.
I agree.
I think for the last few years, I mean, I think Sonic had a lot to do with it. Detective Pikachu. I think
The Last of
I think
Us.
yeah, The Last of Us. Oh my gosh, The Last of Us.
good.
But in terms of especially animated, I don't know. I just think they've been doing a great job, and I feel like those days are over. And I think what shocked me is when I was watching it, sometimes when it's a beloved IP, when it's something so beloved, I'm watching it going, please don't screw something up. Please don't screw something up.
Right.
And so every single beat and every single world that we went into, I was like, check, they did it. Check, they did it. And I
Yes.
walked out thinking, okay, this is great. I'm guessing maybe the score is going to be like 80s, 85 maybe. And I was stunned.
My jaw hit the floor.
Yeah.
When I saw it, I was like, oh, it's, embargo day, excited. And I like log onto, my Rotten Tomato and I was like,
So what do you think that was? I mean, I think it's obvious why people love this movie. I think the one thing that surprised me about it, and I think I might have said this to you, is it skewed younger than I thought. But that was brilliant because I have friends that have young kids and they don't play the games. They don't know but when you are going to do Illumination, that kind of thing, the older people, I thought it was maybe going to be like kind of skewed for more like young teens, maybe that age range, or like a Marvel movie kind of thing. But they would have alienated so many kids. And from the reaction that I'm getting from gamers, people who know every single version of Mario, they feel like they did the movie. I didn't hear one person say it's skewed too young. Everybody seems to have enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a really fun, like all ages, all family film. You don't have to feel bad about taking your youngest one because you're worried about, something that's a little bit too much for them to handle on screen. It's bright, it's colorful. But when we say skew young, it's not like, oh, they babied the movie.
Right.
No, they didn't do that to any of the characters. Like Bowser is still super mean. Kidnapping the prince. He didn't kidnap the princess in this one, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But, taking over the ice castle and things like that. So it wasn't so like dumbed down to be like, oh, it's like a kid's joke. It wasn't like that. Skewing young as in like it's friendly for if you have, a kid who's like 5 or 6, maybe a little bit too young to be playing a Mario game. Because they probably don't even understand.
That's me.
But they can,
now.
But they can still go in and be like, oh, I get it. I enjoy the colors and the sounds and the characters.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know if do you think that's what part of the reasons why it affected the score.
I think
so low.
there are certain, because I actually went through Rotten Tomatoes, and I was looking at sort of lately what's been happening with superhero movies, animated films, game, IP. And I'm looking at like Shazam, Fury of the Gods, 50% Rotten Tomatoes score, 86% audience score. Venom, another sort of fun.
Yeah.
57% Rotten Tomatoes score, 84%. Quantumania, 47% versus 83%. Super Pets is a little closer, DC Super Pets.
That was a fun movie.
Not a video game movie, but, 72 and 88, that was a little closer. And, I am seeing a trend. So what do you think that is? Because I'm thinking maybe it has something to do with, but see, this is why Super Mario confused me. Because I thought I can kind of understand why people are, DC and Marvel and people are upset or they're not agreeing with what's going on. But I thought this was just a no-brainer, that this was just going to be higher.
This one, so to speak some of the other movies, the examples you were bringing up, I hesitate to say superhero fatigue because I don't really believe in it.
Yeah.
However, there was a lot of all of it at once from both comic book IPs. So I wonder if that plays into a factor of it. I've enjoyed all those movies. Like, do I think some of the previous ones have been better and this and that? Yes, but you have to look at it individually. I try not to compare one movie to the next because they're not all the same. They're not interchangeable, right? But for Mario, I feel like maybe some wanted more of an arc to the characters, perhaps, for Mario, for Luigi, and for Bowser, which I guess you can make the argument that like maybe the story was a little bit on the thinner side. It didn't bother me at all. For me personally, I wasn't going into a Super Mario movie looking for the arcs of this and the development of that because it's Mario. You play the game, you grew up with it, so you understand the concept of Mario. And I think they did give us a nice, cute story of Mario doing his thing. And the interactions were true, between like Mario and Bowser and Peach, and with Donkey Kong, etc. So I feel like that maybe have one of them. Another one, and this is again not a complaint of mine, but I'm just trying to think outside of my own feelings, is maybe they felt that it was too full of game references, but at the same time, then what else could there be, right? Because it's Mario movie. So on the one hand, if you don't put it in, people are going to be like, why couldn't you put it in there? Because it's about Mario, which is a video game. It's not a comic book character. It's not a manga character. It's Mario. And I wondered if like, it's too much. Like it was exhausting. For me, it wasn't. I could have taken more. Like the whole movie essentially was, but I was like, yes, more, feed me.
It was one of the few movies. I feel like so many movies are too long now. And this was it was hour and 30 some odd minutes. So I wanted more. I think because they spent a good amount of time in Brooklyn before we even got to the Mushroom Kingdom. And at one point, I was getting nervous. I'm like, I know this movie's I knew how long it was going into it, and I was a little nervous. I thought, oh my gosh, you're spending a lot of time with them plumbing and the dog. Like, this is not Super Mario. It was making me nervous. I thought, is this going to be a third of the movie and then we're not going to get? So I feel like we could have, given that they did spend a lot of time in Brooklyn, they could have given us a little bit more time in the Mushroom Kingdom, because by the time we got to the end, when we went back to Brooklyn, I was like, oh, no, I'm not done
ready
yet. I'm not ready to go back to Brooklyn. But it was actually, I think, a good creative choice, because I think someone pointed out, and I forget who pointed out, I would give them a credit, but it was a very good point that you wouldn't have seen, first of all, you don't want to see the Mushroom Kingdom destroyed.
Yes.
The destruction of buildings and this and that, I think it's easier to animate.
Yeah.
And easier to sort of see the fighting scenes and animate the fighting scenes if there's buildings and blocks and streets and that kind of thing. That visually it worked better.
Yeah. And I like what you said about taking the time in the first portion of the movie to establish Mario and Luigi in Brooklyn, their home. And that's your basis right there for the people who wanted like the arc and the development. Yeah. You see Mario and it's, they have this like cute commercial to promote their business. Right. They're entrepreneurs, right? They're going to go and do their plumbing thing. And then you have the family expectation. And generationally too, because there was a whole family vibe there. And I actually loved seeing that. And I was like, well, that's the basis for Mario. And if the big brother and he keeps trying and trying, doesn't give up and does everything for his family and for his brother. And that's why he kept going. So there was the reasoning for all of that. That's your base right there. And the arc, it kind of almost come full circle towards the end, where he essentially saves the world.
Yeah.
From Bowser, or at least Brooklyn. So I enjoyed the full little circle. It's very slight, but it didn't need to be so heavy. It's Illumination film. So I liked what they did, and I like that they brought it back into Brooklyn, because now the situation is a lot more dire than just this Mushroom Kingdom that nobody else in this other world knew existed. So it was only the citizens and the Toads that was like, oh my gosh, our kingdom and of this world, but you bring it into Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And it's real world. It's like, oh no, how do we fix this?
What was his name? Spike Maniscalco? So brilliant.
Oh my gosh.
And that was a good full circle moment too.
Yeah.
When he comes back and he sort of Mario proves. But I think you make a really good point about, I think setting up the story correctly was a smart choice. And you made me think of something. The Mario games, don't hate me, Mario gamers, but the worlds and all the versions of Mario are the appeal. It's not that you have this long drawn out story about why he's doing this or that. And there are stories within the games, obviously, between Bowser and Peach and they all have their own little sub story. But they were smart enough to make it about the worlds.
Yeah.
But the story was great. The story was fine.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Can you imagine if they tried to make it super complicated and then didn't give you all the Easter eggs or the references? We would all be criticizing it.
Exactly.
We would
exactly.
we would have hated it.
That's exactly right.
So who was your favorite, if you can choose, who was your favorite voice character?
Oh.
Because there was so much talk about Chris Pratt being cast as Mario, and people were super upset. And I thought it was really adorable in the beginning when they do the commercial, which was a reference to way back.
Yes.
When they do the commercial, and then at the very end of the commercial, they say, did we get the voices right? Because they put on the accent for the commercial, because they thought that was sort of their, that was their stage, sort of their stage personas.
Yeah.
That made the voices work. But the thing for me was Mario being likable and having that, everybody's sort of talking about their favorite Easter eggs and that, but I think what they got the most right that made me love the movie is you cannot tell me there's a person out there that didn't like Mario as a character.
Oh, yeah.
Like they did such a good job of making him that guy in the movie that there was nothing about him that anybody could say, well, it kind of irritated me, or is this nobody can say anything about, like they
None
did
of the
a
characters
perfect
did that for me.
job. And Chris Pratt is such an underrated voice actor. He is so good. And I encourage everybody, if you've never done this, when he did Lego, they showed him in the recording booth. There's a YouTube video of him in the recording booth. And I was like, the things he can do with his voice, and watching his session was phenomenal.
Wow. I kind of want to see him explore that range, though.
Within the movie?
Within the movies with the projects that he'll take on moving forward. Like, I'd love to see that, because it's I think I saw another interview. I can't remember who it was that did it, but it was clear that the man could replicate the Mario, the original voice. He could do it. And the thing is that do we need that for like an hour and a half? Could you do it for an hour and a half? Probably not, because in the game, Mario doesn't carry on a full monologue ever in that voice. We get the iconic wahoo, let's go, and this and that. So I thought the commercial aspect of it, top of the movie, so smart. It explains the voice, then we can just move on. It's like, got it, check. Let's just move on. And he still gave us sprinkles of Mario.
But at the same time, like, can you imagine?
Iconic
and I don't know
sounds.
how an entire movie would sound with that voice, but he does kind of have to represent everybody, and you have to feel like this is somebody that you can sit with for a few hours. Yeah, like if you talk like that, it would be very specific.
Yes.
And it would be harder to just tell the story. It could be a little bit distracting. But yeah, and he clearly could do the sounds and do all that. Exactly. And I was like, well played, Chris Pratt, that in interviews he started doing it.
Yeah.
And he started doing it.
It wasn't one of them that somebody, I can't remember who it was, that he just like, oh, I could sound like this.
Right.
Or I could.
I think he did that in my interview with him.
Maybe it was yours that I watched.
Yeah.
Because you did.
And I was like, he did it. In my brain, I was like, he did it. He did it. Oh my God. Because it's always a thing when you're interviewing actors. You never ask them to do impressions unless I'm interviewing Jack Black and I just flat out ask him, which I did.
You might not even need to ask him. He'll just do it.
He just does it anyway.
Automatic.
Yeah. Or he does like hidden talents and all this kind of crazy stuff. But yeah, the fact that he was out there kind of in a couple of interviews, not just mine, but going out there and being like, whoa, let's go.
Yeah.
It was kind of great. So he was actually my favorite. I never got to, you tell me who was yours.
I mean, it's hard to like not look at Mario because he is like, the titular character. Yeah. So you're like, oh my gosh, Mario. But I got to give it to Keegan-Michael Key as Toad.
Wow.
Yeah, I really, really liked, because I don't think Toad is an easy like register to have.
Oh my gosh.
With his natural voice.
Yeah.
So he, in an interview, may have been yours.
It was.
He kind of was like playing with the different octaves of his voice. And then they finally, I'm not going to try to do Toad because I can't, I'm not a voice actor. And he hit that pitch and he's like, what if I pushed it just a little bit more? And I just like seeing, actors or creators and they're kind of get there and they experiment with different things, like what sticks, what does, like, oh, this doesn't really work. Oh, this really works. But what if I push the envelope a little bit more? Mm-hmm. And I liked it. And because the voice for Toad, it just sounded so similar to like my ears to the game, but at the same time it was different.
Yeah.
But I didn't have like they didn't nail it. Like I loved his take on it. And yeah, Toad didn't get, that many lines, but when he did, it was nice.
He did
to
at the
hear.
beginning. They were sort of setting up that he was going to have more of a journey.
Yeah.
And then it seemed like it kind of, peaked at the beginning.
Yeah.
My second favorite, very close second, maybe even my favorite, was surprisingly Seth Rogen. Like, I didn't expect it. I thought, no offense to Jack Black, but I thought Jack Black was going to steal the whole thing, and Jack Black was amazing, and he was a perfect Bowser. And I have a nephew who's obsessed with Mario, and he loves villains. He loved Thanos. He just loves the villain, which is a little terrifying. But he was like, I was like, did you like Jack Black? And he was like, nobody else could have been Bowser. He was perfect. And he was.
He was.
But Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong, and I'm a Donkey Kong girl. Like, that was my game growing up. So I think I also have an affinity. I had an affinity for that whole sequence. But I thought he was extraordinary. And I love that they gave him the quintessential moment to do his own laugh.
Yes.
That they kind of
so
put
iconic.
little Easter eggs, not within the Mario games, but they almost gave each of the characters their own little Easter eggs. Like, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but the Mario Kart sequence,
so good.
The Rainbow Road, there was almost like a Mad Max, and then Anya's playing Furiosa in the next like, it was almost like little things. There were some Guardians, like little references for Chris with the music, one of the songs.
Yeah.
And I just felt like they gave Seth, like, let him have a moment.
Yeah. And it's funny because Seth doesn't do voices.
Right.
So it's his natural voice, but it goes so well with Donkey Kong. There's actually a YouTube edit of somebody animated a Donkey Kong like animation, but they input the lines from Pineapple Express, and it fit so perfect. I was like, oh, he is the correct casting choice. And then the laugh, I just like his laugh a lot. Like, I just want to talk to the man because I can hear him laugh. And I think, again, that fits with Donkey Kong. So I really liked it, and I liked the character. That character also had a little bit of arc as well. I
thought that sequence, that whole Jungle Kingdom sequence was by far my favorite. And what I think was a nice touch, and people can correct me if I'm wrong because I know some of the games, I don't know all of them, but Donkey Kong, him having that element of I'm super famous in my world, that was he was kind of like the bratty son of Cranky Kong, which I know wasn't the same as the games because Cranky Kong wasn't Donkey Kong's dad, I don't think, but that they made him his dad, and it's kind of like, well, you got to fight my son, and he kind of comes into the ring like with his, the rap,
up, I'm here.
and I'm here, and it's like the people in the audience are like, you imagine him, and I want to see more of that world because you imagine him sort of walking. I want to know his day-to-day life. I want to know when he walks around, is he signing autographs?
Probably.
Is he like, what's he doing? I loved that they put that element into it where he was kind of this like, I'm trying to think of who it would be, like the equivalent to like The Rock or somebody.
Oh my gosh.
Like he's
that
walking.
superstar.
Yeah, he's like a superstar. He can smash. Anyway, I thought that sequence and that performance was my favorite.
Yeah. And I really liked, between that was essentially his and Mario's first time meeting. And it was, doing this crazy one-on-one battle, which it gave a little like DK throwing the barrel, because that's like the aesthetic of his game. But then it also gave me, they didn't really lean as far into as I would hope. So maybe if there's going to be a Mario 2, let's go, they can lean into a little bit more of like Super Smash.
Yeah.
Because I was ready for the character to like beam off character and then that like off the screen and then the spark of light coming in. But just watching DK essentially own Mario for the first half of that battle, but then we get the item boxes and Mario really realizing like, oh, I can utilize this.
Yep.
And it was a lot of like punching, kicking moments. And then we have little comedic moments like the cat box, which I cracked up. I was probably so annoying in that screening because I just laughed it up. I really just sat there and enjoyed it.
I did too. I thought I was the only person laughing because we saw it with a press screening. So
my section was actually pretty
subdued.
like fun.
Were they? I was in the back. And I felt like I was the only person, because just, I don't know, press is definitely more subdued usually than when you go to an audience screening, because we're taking notes and we're interviewing them and that. But yeah, I think, that whole sequence felt like a mini movie. There was a real story to it. It was kind of like Mario for the first time utilizing his power-ups, and that in the real world practically, and not the obstacle course that Peach taught him. It was the first time you really saw him get like, it really set up the stakes in the sense of, you were like at the beginning, oh, he's getting so pummeled. Like, how is he going to get out of this kind of thing?
Yeah.
And just for me, seeing the damn barrels and the levels was like, oh my God. And I saw it in the trailer and I knew it was coming, but it was just genius animation.
The movie just made me so happy. The animation is so pretty, and I really think they nailed every world. You were talking about the different galaxies, different worlds before, and even to, a character who I feel like I wish had a little bit more of a spotlight, but Luigi, when he was, when they got separated and they leaned into a little bit of like Luigi's Haunted Mansion, which I love that game. So I enjoy that they put a little bit of that element in there for us. But yeah, they really
he didn't have a
nailed all
lot
the worlds.
to do in that world, and Luma Lee as well. He didn't have a lot to do. I think that would be one criticism I would have. And I know they flipped it where Princess Peach didn't need to be rescued. It was more Luigi that had to be rescued. And yeah, when he sort of walked up and you see the mansion. I was like, oh, where are they going with this? This is going to be so cool. They're actually giving us Luigi's Mansion in the first movie. And now I think that they could, obviously they didn't really delve into it in the way they could, they could have.
Next movie.
Yeah.
They could.
Yeah. But I agree. But I think Charlie Day, he doesn't have to do anything.
No,
He's just
his voice sounds,
so natural
good.
voice.
Yeah.
They truly did a great job casting this movie.
They really did. And even for Peach too, because Peach in the games, from what I can remember, don't really speak a lot. She's, the damsel in distress. She gets kidnapped by Bowser and, save me, Mario, and et cetera. And I think Enya brought a lot more complexity to Peach than just a princess who needs help in saving her kingdom, who's seeking help from Mario, or who needs the rescuing, right? And we get a little bit of backstory for her, too. It's, we have this mushroom kingdom all full of toads, and then we have Princess Peach. And we get a look at who she is.
Yeah.
And then we can hopefully explore that in, if they give us follow-up films, who she is, where she came from, and then give us more of that relationship between it may be her and Mario or whoever else. And I think that'd be a lot of fun. So I think Enya, with being the tremendous actress she is, brought a lot of different layers to Peach. Her
voice, as a voice actress, she's very solid. Like you feel soothed by her voice. You felt like she had a command of it. It wasn't... And I like that there was a nice balance. I always go back to the original Wonder Woman film, and I think part of the reason that film worked for me is because you had Wonder Woman being a strong woman, but she also was a woman.
Yes.
And she didn't have to try to be a dude, and she and Steve went on this journey together, and they were partners, and whether or not there's going to be any romantic thing between them in the future is different, but just the fact that they were, she was very capable, but they didn't... I don't like it when, as a female, when people hit you over the head with, look how she's like sort of, overdo it.
Yeah.
For the sake of being
she was in charge and she knew it, but she also knew that she needed help to save her kingdom. And I was like, great, I loved it. And I think for her to go on the journey with Mario versus Luigi works as well, because who else is going to be able to be a better guide than Princess Peach? So I was like, this is perfect.
The first time I saw the Mushroom Kingdom, oh my gosh, wasn't that it? And then when they walk up to it, and I loved the joke about princesses in another castle, how the toads were kind of like, she's not here right now. It's not that she needed rescuing.
Right.
It was just here. Like, they were just protecting her kind of thing. It felt very 2023, how people are,
She's not here.
Yeah, people don't answer their door or their phone.
Like, I'm not here. You look at your little Ring doorbell. No.
Yeah, that was really cute. And then the other visual that was my favorite was Mario being sucked through the glass tubes. I thought the animation of that, and that's a game reference as well, but I thought that was it's almost like sometimes when I love when I watch a movie and I don't know how they did it.
Yeah.
When you go, there's because we see so many movies, we're like, oh, I see how they shot that, or I know how they animated that. But I was like, wow, that was another level of, I would love to hear the animators talk about how they did that
sequence.
With the clear, that had to be really tough.
So cool. And what's funny is, as a kid growing up playing Mario, you go through in the game, you just go through, you hear a choo, choo, choo sound. I can't do it. And then you come up the other end, you're in a different level or different world, whatever it may be. But in this one, because it's Mario's first time experiencing it, we get to experience it with him. And it's not because it's his first time, not the smooth ride like I thought it was going to be. Right. And just because Toad was like, wee, let's go. And then Mario was like, poof, 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 and essentially getting beaten up by the pipes. And it was just funny to see how he handles the first time being in Mushroom Kingdom and just literally being dropped into this strange world to, I gotta go get my brother. I need to master all these skills immediately because somebody I care for immensely is in trouble. Yeah,
that there was a journey because, in the very opening sequence when they're in Brooklyn and he and Luigi are walking along the street and he naturally starts jumping and doing all these things. Flag. So I thought at that moment, they're going to make him one of those prodigies. Like when he gets to the Mushroom Kingdom, everything's easy. He just has this natural ability that he didn't know he had. Like he was always doing that in Brooklyn. But the fact that they didn't do that and they sort of took him back to scratch, that he had to learn, and that what made him the hero was the fact that he never gives up.
Yes.
That
and that's
attitude.
Mario. Yeah.
Yeah. And
that's
for
Mario.
A kid's movie, I was quite moved by it and quite inspired by it. So let's talk about your favorite Easter eggs in the movie.
Ooh, gosh, there's so many. But I think I'm partial to the Mario Kart stuff just because that was one of the games that I would stay up until 4 or 5 in the morning playing with friends, and you get mad at each other because you knock each other out of first place. Like I have so many, like to the point where it's like I can't talk to you for the next hour because I could have won first and you came in with your blue shell. So it was all the items that had to do with Mario Kart, like even from customizing the car and hitting the big A button. I was like, yes, because you can do that in the games now. Like I think the very first iteration you couldn't do it. You just got like the cart that they gave you. Right. So little different things and seeing how the characters would be using their items, whether it be the red shell or the banana peel or the blue shell, the one that everybody hates. I really enjoy seeing that. And then it's less of an Easter egg because I feel like the whole movie essentially was like
the entire movie
was an Easter egg, which I loved. But the music by Brian Tyler.
The music
was
amazing, and
how
just
little hints of the so good.
Yeah, it's like when somebody immediately gives you that nostalgia, but it was another level. It was it was a more sophisticated rendition or a new rendition, but it was familiar enough.
Yes,
and then all of the music, like Bowser's Fury and all the this Peach song, and I just think everything melded together. And clearly Jack Black said to them, I'll do this movie for you people. However, I'm going to need to sing.
I'm going
to need to be my Tenacious D self.
Yes.
But it was brilliant that every time that they would show Bowser on screen and switch worlds, they would play metal music.
Yeah, it was perfect. It was just so like a nice little Easter egg for Jack Black and for Bowser, whose personality. And I like that too. I liked them leaning into the, why is he so obsessed with taking over these kingdoms and going after the superstar? And then you find out the reason is he's got this huge crush on Peach. But then being the bad guy that he is, he's kind of like, I will give you the ultimatum. You can't say no because, we belong together no matter what. And the song was just like a fun nod to like the softer side of Bowser. He's got this hard exterior, but inside he's just like, I just really want to love Peach. I love her. I want to show her.
And it did work. And I think it's also a choice because it is a kid's movie that they could have had him be a Thanos type character, just pure evil. And we've seen it in so many films. There's the pure evil person. But the fact that they played into Jack Black's humor and allowing him to sort of be funny, be vulnerable. You still hate him.
Yeah.
But then he has these moments. And so as far as Easter eggs goes, there were so many. There was I wrote a lot of them down.
I like Lumos. Is it Lumos, the little dark star that was in captivity, along with
yes,
the Cons and Luigi? And I was like, oh, Mario Galaxy, Rosalina Wen.
Yeah,
that's why I was thinking. I was like, oh, we didn't get it in this movie, but again, hopeful for the second one.
We didn't. I think that was one thing a lot of people wanted to know is if Rosalina would make an appearance.
Yeah.
Which she did not.
It's okay.
But Pauline did.
Yeah.
Pauline made an appearance as the mayor of New York, I think it was. Well, she was on the TV.
Yeah.
My very favorite Easter egg was at the very end, and this came courtesy, I'm going to reference my nephew again, but before I went to see the movie, he's like, if he doesn't take Bowser by the tail at the end and swing him around, I'm going to feel like the movie sucked. And when he did it, because that's the quintessential how he defeats Bowser, and I'm like, of course they were going to do it, but until I saw that moment, I think that was my chef's kiss.
That was
moment.
Yeah, that's right. The ultimate finish.
Yeah.
So good.
I wrote some of the other ones down. I mean, I love the Koopas. I'm obsessed with the Koopas. It's not really an Easter egg, but the movie is so full of I've been down rabbit holes where you watch even the trailer breakdowns.
Yeah.
Where people break down all of the little references. But I liked when Mario was playing Kid Icarus. I thought that was really cool.
Oh, that was great.
At the very beginning.
Yes.
Yeah. And then let me see if I had anything else.
Tanuki suit was a nice nod
too. The Tanuki suit was great.
Like, they did it.
Yeah.
I love the Tanuki suit.
Yeah. They found a way to. I think no matter what you're going to get out of this movie is probably what you put into it. So if you're a Mario fan and you know there are people who are like, I know every single game and I watched it a second and third time and I'm still finding Easter eggs. I mean, from what Mario has on his walls in his room to everything.
Yeah.
There's so many, you can just keep going down a rabbit hole. I don't know all of them, but I would say the more you know about the movie, the more you're probably going to be enthralled and be able to go watch it 20 million times. But the nice thing is having a casual interest in the games and having just growing up with it. Nobody can go to that and not recognize somebody. Somebody or something that they feel nostalgic from in the games.
Yeah. And speaking of nostalgia, I thought of my dad the whole time I was watching the film because he was the one that showed me Mario. He was one that bought the Nintendo system. And my mom was like, what are you doing? We're not having video games in this house. And he's like, it's for me. And it's true. He put it in his study. So I had very little access to it. But Mario was the first game that was mom approved for me to be able to play. And at the time I was way too young to understand how the controller worked and the hand-eye coordination was not there. But my dad would put me in his lap. I have pictures and would play. So I grew up watching the original Mario game. So just to watch this movie come to life and think of how old I am now and how many iterations of different Mario games there have been since and how my dad would feel watching this movie. And he hasn't seen it yet because he's not a movie theater kind of guy. He would prefer to, so it might have to be a little while until he goes and sees it. But when he does, I'm excited for him to explore the whole world in full vibrant color.
Yeah.
I think he's going to love it.
Well, the colors are insane.
Yeah.
I thought of my other favorite little nod, and that was the Sunshine Travel Agency in Brooklyn at the beginning, which was a reference to, because I don't play the game, but the Sunshine World is one that I love. Just because
different worlds too.
Yeah, it's just a pretty world.
Yeah.
Let's talk about maybe anything that fell short of expectations as far as you were concerned.
Oh, okay. I think for one, I feel like I addressed this earlier already in our conversation, but the lack of Luigi and Mario action together. Like, yeah, we got some beginning and end, but because he had to, he was in captivity, I just had hope for like a Mario Brothers team up a little bit more in this one. And I enjoy hearing Charlie Day, so I just wanted more of that, or just to let Luigi do his own exploration and meet up at the end. Like, I feel like that fell a little short for me. That was the one that I was like, I could have, because Mario was all about his brother, and I felt like when they were in those cages over the lava, the dialogue was just okay. Like, I don't know, I can't remember, but I don't feel like at any point they really tried super hard to like break themselves out. They were obviously in distress, but they're like, how do we do this? So that's one thing that I really keep going back to. And I was like, I wish we had more of Mario plus Luigi in like second half of the second act to the final act. That, and I was really hoping for like a Mario. I was really hoping for that. They didn't give us, not really, but it's okay.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think they spent enough time with him.
Yes.
There wasn't a lot of exploration in that world. And yeah, it was very much, I feel like maybe they went to the cages one too many times with Luigi Lee talking, and I wasn't sure where they were going with that. And I sometimes wonder too, like, did things get cut out, right? Like, maybe it was a longer movie, and then they decided to keep it really simple and simplify it. I'm trying to think of if anything, I know there was things that bothered me, but I'm trying to think of what they are now. Like nothing, like I think I mentioned I wanted it to be longer.
Yeah. Yes.
I think I wanted it to be about 10, 15 minutes longer.
Yeah.
Because I think animated movies for kids can be a little bit longer.
Yeah, they can be a little bit longer.
Yeah, when they went back to Brooklyn, I think I wasn't ready. I think I wanted to spend a little bit more time in the Mushroom Kingdom.
I feel like that was actually kind of sudden.
Right.
Like, it was just like everything was happening at once and boom, Brooklyn impacted. And I was like, oh, we're close to the end. And that's when I knew, I was like, oh, the movie's almost over. I don't want to look at my watch. Yeah. To be like, how much time do we have left? Because I wanted to stay in that world for just a little bit longer. And it was so much fun. I kind of wished, but we already, in a way, and this goes hand in hand into you talking about wanting a longer movie. So we got to explore Mushroom Kingdom, Bowser's home, essentially, and the Jungle Kingdom. But we didn't really, I would have loved to like kind of do like not a side quest, but for lack of a better word, just to another Mario world that we would have known, just as a quick like, they're seeking guidance from somebody. Could have been Rosalina, could have been anybody. Right. Could have been Daisy, or something like that. Like that would have been kind of cool to see, and that would have taken maybe 10, 15 minutes, and then we would have had like an hour 45, and that still would have been okay. So that's kind of something I was hoping for. But I think what they wanted to do with this movie is to really flesh out these, core characters before we go too crazy and fully expand. Because you have to remember, like, yes, the majority of the people who are going to go and see this movie multiple times are the Mario fans. But there's also, you can't like leave out the people there are people who haven't played Mario, but you want this movie to be just as enjoyable for them and like not too hard to understand. Because I've had people ask me like, I haven't played Mario, should I go see this movie? I'm like, oh, absolutely, 100%. Yes. You don't need to know the game. No. It doesn't alienate you from this. Like, you know what Mario is. They're like, oh yeah, like everybody knows who and what Mario is, even if they haven't played the game. So I think this movie focus on what they needed to focus on so that we can, if they choose to expand the world, then they can in the follow-up films.
They are expanding the world. They made $377 million worldwide, 204 domestic, which the 377 was a record, an all-time record for a animated movie opening. It was a 5-day opening because of the holiday weekend. I think Frozen 2 would have beat it over 5 days, but that was a 3-day weekend. But basically, it was a bonkers opening weekend. And I think the nice thing about the world that they set up is there are so many places to go.
Yes.
And there are going to be more. I have a real wish for the next film. I feel like they have more than enough to work with to just do a straight up sequel before they start spinning off, before they start giving people their own movie, before they start, we're going to do Super Mario Galaxy for the second one.
Yeah.
Or, whatever world they would want to explore. I think there's enough there because there are worlds that haven't been fleshed out.
Yeah.
Within the story. And I think there's enough. They kept it simple enough. Bowser's still around. Adorable Bowser is still around.
Yeah.
They could even have Bowser shift. And I don't know if Donkey Kong and Mario have something in the next one.
There's still a little bit of that rivalry.
There's so much to explore that what I think, and I'm going to reference Marvel again, but what Marvel did so great with the way that they built their kingdom was they did it slow and they had a real idea of where they were going. And I can see little things that they've planted in this one where I'm like, the fact that we don't know Peach's story.
Yes.
Right? That she hints that she didn't have a family and she ended up in the kingdom and the Toads took her in.
Yeah.
I'm like, they know where they're going with that story. They didn't just put that story in for nothing. They know what they're building towards. And they have an idea. And I think that's what Kevin Feige did so well with Marvel in the beginning stages was there was a 10-year plan. And I don't think they need to rush this. They spent obviously so much time and care making it so detailed and within the story giving people so much to enjoy that I don't think that they need to rush. I don't think they need to do a sequel and a spinoff around the same time.
No. And I like what you said. I think having a sequel, just a direct follow-up to this one would be great. Obviously, if you stayed for the end credits, you saw Yoshi. Everybody saw Yoshi, or the beginning of it. So that's exciting to see how they're going to put that into the second film and how that's going to be introduced. I would love to actually get the sequel of that, and then we do a spin-off of whatever character it may be. It may be Mario, DK, Peach, Bowser, whoever. And I want to see a full saga of the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah, I think, the fact that they touched on these different worlds, and I heard somebody critique the movie and say they wanted to spend more time on the Rainbow Road or more time underwater or more time in Donkey Kong World. And I think that's kind of nice because it leaves you wanting so much more that they could go back to this whole what they've set up before they give a full, and look, after the sequel, I need a Donkey Kong spinoff. Yeah. Because I want to live in the Jungle Kingdom. I want to explore that world. Everybody that we saw, I wrote it down. We saw Cranky, Chunky, Dixie, Diddy, Funky.
Wow.
We saw them. I want to know all about their interactions. I want to know all about their relationships. And I think Donkey Kong is such an interesting character that's the world. So after the sequel, I want a Donkey Kong spinoff. What about you?
And then we can get the third movie after that. No, I feel like out of all the characters aside, because I don't really feel like Mario needs he is the star of his movie. So we don't need a Mario solo movie. And in the sense, I almost don't feel like we need a Luigi one yet.
Right. Mansion for sure down the road.
Yeah, but I think we flesh out some of the other characters. Yeah. And Donkey Kong is a really, really good one because his story is interesting too because, there's a little bit of that back and forth between him and Cranky Kong, which essentially is his dad in this film. And what's the aftermath of all of this? I don't really need a prequel origin story for DK. We've established who he is already, and we can do flashbacks in his own spinoff. But yeah, let's establish what's going forward, and that can be the one that bridges the sequel movie to the next movie. I'd love that.
What do you think? What do you think they were doing with the Yoshi? Why do you think that was the scene, the post-credit scene?
Well, one, I think if they don't add it, people are going to write it. Because we only saw in the actual movie, we only saw a quick flash of Yoshi's World, and then I was like, oh, the Yoshis, okay, bye, Yoshis. So that's definitely going to be when we get the sequel. I think obviously probably Bowser breaks out and is full size again, and he's like, I'm gonna show Mario that he got lucky the first time or something like that. And hopefully then we can spin off the hey, off planet of this Mushroom Kingdom, we can go elsewhere, and that's where Yoshi is going to be introduced, and that becomes the partner for Mario. Yeah. And the rest of the gang. So I think that's how it's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who else. I mean, I think Peach's story.
Yeah.
A Peach origin story, because they did show you baby Peach, baby Mario, baby Luigi in the film.
So cute.
A Peach origin story could be adorable.
Yeah. I want to see Peach in Brooklyn.
That's a good
idea.
And I'd like to see more of the interaction with the family, because actually they did a very good job of, he has this family and how his dad feels that
Yeah, I felt the issue, like the disappointment to your dad and wanting to exceed expectations. My stomach is growling. I feel like there is a lot more to be explored, but I feel like if they had put it all in this movie, it would have just been too heavy.
Right.
So let's have a fun first off. Yeah. And then
they gave us more than I thought they would.
They really did. Because I wasn't expecting a whole family dynamic for Mario and Luigi. I just thought they were going to be like, I actually had no idea that they were going to go that full into like family dinner and like Mario getting upset and getting up from the dinner table. So I would like to see more of that. And like, is the plumber business, like booming after he saves Brooklyn, because that they can film a whole new commercial, right? Or is dad, giving him more pressure? He still doesn't feel like he's accomplished enough in his dad's eyes. Like, I don't know, but there's a lot of different angles that we can go for the next film.
They could have even, they didn't even have to give us all the worlds that they did. They didn't even have to give us Donkey Kong, the Jungle Kingdom. They didn't have to give us the Rainbow Road. They could have had a film that was in the Mushroom Kingdom, flash over to Bowser's airship and go back and forth.
Yeah.
They
gave us so much.
They did.
Yeah.
Why do you think the box office did as well as it did?
I think it's a very well-known game IP.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks to everybody. Again, if you don't have to have played the game to know what Mario is, right? So I think it's curiosity for the non-gamers. Like, okay, let me go see what this movie about. For the gamers, I think the answer is pretty, obvious. They grew up with it for nostalgia reasons. And then there's for the box office too. So you have, me who grew up very like a baby watching dad play games. So then you think of families taking their parents and taking their grandchildren like to the same movie, and that's going to multiply for this box office. And on top of that, Mario is worldwide. Mario is global.
Right.
So it's not so focused on like, just domestic opening. Like everybody, all over the world is going to want to go and see this film. And because there's so much happening in it with all the Easter eggs and this and that, it deserves to be seen multiple times so you can catch all of this stuff. And on top of that, the runtime is a nice hour and a half. So for families, it's really manageable, I think, for the kids to have that attention on the screen, to be like, yeah,
it is smart in that sense. And I think part of it was, I know for my friends that have kids, young kids, the kids just need to see the commercial. And my friends will say, my son or my daughter's really into that. They're really into that. And they don't know the property.
Yeah.
And there's other films like Trolls that they've been in. And there's certain bells and whistles and visuals that immediately hook kids, which is, they don't need to know the story to know they want to go see this movie. I had so many people be like, my kids are, going crazy to go see it.
So
and I'm so thrilled because I played Mario as a kid and now I get to bring them. But I think, there's something in the zeitgeist. I'm always fascinated with how movies do opening weekend, because there's something that you feel. There's like an energy or a zeitgeist where it just built this crazy momentum. And then I think despite the score, the Rotten Tomatoes score, when I saw the first few audience reviews coming out, and I'm talking the ones that came out like at the 3:00 showing on Wednesday. Immediately. And those were probably the gamers.
Yes.
And when I saw it, and I was like, okay, well, obviously the gamers are going to really like it. I wonder if it's going to drop at all over the weekend. Nope.
Yeah.
No. It's just certain things that are universal that people just.
It's a beloved property character.
Yeah.
And, it makes sense. And I think they did a really good movie. And the animation for Illumination, that's like top tier Illumination to me.
Yeah.
And I absolutely loved it. So they crushed it.
Yeah. And actually, I looked up you have to look up video game movies that are animated. It's actually, the Rotten Tomatoes score isn't that low compared to how so many others have fared. So
Really?
there's definitely something there. So
Like in comparison to like Detective Pikachu and Sonic?
Pikachu is a little bit higher in Sonic, but I'm talking like when you go back.
Oh.
There's a, it actually, I think we rank them on our tomato meter, the top 50 video game animated films. And I think Mario was third.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Third or fourth. So, in the grand scheme of things. Wendy, this was such a pleasure to have you. Please let everybody know where they can find you.
Oh, thank you so much. It was so much fun to get to talk to Mario and the movie with you. I'm Wendy Lee Szany. You can find me on The Movie Couple on YouTube. And my byline's at Movie Phone.
And I've watched your Movie Couple videos,
Thank
and they're
you.
totally adorable. So people, you should check them out. So thank you so much for joining. I'm absolutely going to go watch this movie again. I tried to do it over the weekend, and I didn't have a chance, but I'm going to go see it again. And that 1:30 runtime, as an adult, doesn't hurt me either. I'm happy about it. I know I can get in and out. But thank you all for watching the After Show, and we will see you on the next one. Bye.